Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and especially have more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm the founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. I have as my guest today, Adam Eagle. What a great name. Your parents did a good job.
Thank you. Very patriotic name. We'll
Very
get to
patriotic. I mean, you're
I'm
great.
sure.
How can you go wrong with Adam Eagle, man? You got biblical and patriotism. You got to win. Um, from Beam, and it's a very interesting software. So, Adam, can you tell me a little backstory and about Beam and what it does?
Yeah. So speaking of my patriotic name, I grew up not in a construction or trade family, but a government and military family. Grew up down in San Diego, where my dad was in the Navy for many many years. My mom worked in government intelligence in DC for a while, and then became a stay-at-home mom. In my neighborhood, there were a lot of folks in construction. And for some reason, as a kid, I always had the dream of being an architect. So, would design buildings for fun, draw things as a kid. And then all of a sudden, I think I was 12 when I discovered code and I discovered software. And the reason why I discovered it was I wanted to make some modification to a video game that, you know, my brothers and I were playing.
I have a 13-year-old kid who's like, he types 80 words a minute, and not because he likes to type, because he needs to type that to be, competitive in Fortnite, right? So
Yeah, exactly. So, back then, a lot of these games were a bit more open where you could make modifications. And I remember just like kind of learning, hacking my way, following online tutorials, and eventually figuring out how to write code. At some point I realized it could be a business when friends and their parents were asking me to build their websites. And then I discovered that you could build games and license them or put advertising in them. So all of a sudden I was 15 years old, developing games, having them translated into Chinese. They were getting millions of plays around the world, which was really exciting. And then at some point I met these two guys who were starting a company in the Bay Area. And I was in San Diego at the time. They didn't know I was, a 16-year-old kid or something. And they said, "Hey, next time you're in San Francisco, come up here for a beer. We'd love to kind of show you around,
yeah, that was kind of
you about the
interesting.
startup scene." Yeah, and that's probably when I got hooked, where I said, "Hey, there's this incredible group of talented people who are they're extremely optimistic, and they want to, improve the world through creating businesses and building great products." And yeah, ever since then, that's what I've been focused on. And then, to bring the story back around, uh, I ended up working at a company called Stripe for 6 years. For those of
That's
you that
that's
don't
a
know,
payroll service, right? Or like a PayPal thing, right?
exactly. So Stripe is kind of behind the scenes. It's not as well known as PayPal, but it powers millions of different businesses around the world. And one of the things that when I was at Stripe that we noticed was this plethora of what we call them vertical platforms, or vertical SaaS businesses, which were products serving a particular industry, and helping them with the particular quirks of their industry. And usually they somehow integrated payments. And it turns out getting paid is really important in every industry. It's
Right.
especially important in construction. Um, but what I noticed was there weren't a lot of players, and there weren't a lot of great software products out there for construction. It's the second biggest industry in the world, um, and and yet not the second biggest industry for technology. More folks are building, NFTs and crypto, whatever,
Right.
than helping with construction. And so this to me was always confusing because growing up, I love this stuff, and I just know how important it is that we have housing and infrastructure and everything for the country. And yet it wasn't getting the attention it deserved by folks in technology. So that's what originally led me to jump into starting Beam. And I'm happy to talk more about like,
But let's talk about me. So, why don't you explain what Stripe does, just in case people don't know, and then why that relates to Beam and how they like tie in together, right?
yeah, yeah, totally. So let's say you're shopping online and you want to order a new pair of shoes. At some point, you need to provide your credit card information, or maybe you even provide banking information. Maybe you're paying for, a house cleaning. It's bigger payment, and you need to pay online by putting in your bank information. All of that requires a lot of complex, working with banks and dealing with fraud and dealing with disputes and all of these things. And it turns out, a small business doesn't want to build all that from scratch, right? So they really just want to integrate with a processor who's going to handle a lot of that complexity. And Stripe does just that. And what they also do is they power platforms that work with thousands or hundreds of thousands of other businesses. So a great example is Shopify, which many of you may have heard of, which is the company that powers thousands, maybe at this point, close to 1 million e-commerce stores. And
It's
so a
sort of
lot of,
like, it's white labeling PayPal, for lack of a better term, right? I
yeah,
mean, most people are familiar with PayPal, but they're not familiar with Stripe. But Stripe, I think, is just as big or close, right?
yeah, but and I guess, another way of thinking about it is PayPal could have actually been powered by Stripe. Stripe is the behind the scenes processing. PayPal is like an application that happened to also build Stripe in back in 2000 or whenever it
Right,
started, because they had to. Stripe didn't exist back then.
right.
So now the next PayPal that will be built will almost certainly be built on top of Stripe.
Okay. So you have that information on how to pay and get paid. How did that translate into Beam? Exactly what does Beam do?
Yeah, so a lot of Stripe's customers were building software for other industries, like a Shopify building software for e-commerce, or Toast building software for restaurants. And what we saw was that the software that you could build for a particular industry would be much better than sort of generic software. And so I built a lot of the invoicing and subscription software at Stripe, but it turns out most contractors can't use our invoicing product because it doesn't handle the quirks of how contractors do invoicing. It's not doing progress invoicing. It can't do cost plus, et cetera. And so at the end of the day, someone needs to go in and build industry specific software in many of these cases. And I had a hunch, because we had almost no construction businesses on Stripe, and I hadn't really found any platforms that were using Stripe helping with construction, that there was an opportunity here. But I didn't truly know. So what I did was I interviewed as many folks in the construction industry as I possibly could. I talked to general contractors, I talked to trades, I talked to big, production home builders, commercial folks, small remodelers, everything in between. And what I discovered was about 80% of the folks I talked to, even if they had purchased software at some point or they were using something like QuickBooks, when it came to the actual payments, 80% of them were still collecting paper checks, manually producing invoices. They had spreadsheets around, they had papers on their desks. The software that they had used hadn't really streamlined the back office.
What
And when I
about things like CoConstruct and Procore and all the web-based software usually integrates with QuickBooks, and QuickBooks does the
yeah.
billing? Is that the way it works normally?
Yeah, a lot of times, but QuickBooks Online wasn't built for contractors. QuickBooks Desktop Contractor Edition was, and we meet tons of folks who use that or used to use that, and that could really help them build their invoices. It couldn't help them do payment processing. Now, QuickBooks Online has some payment processing capabilities, but it has certain limitations.
But
So,
this interesting discussion. I just had this discussion with one of my clients that
mm,
everyone wants to stay at QuickBooks Online. I mean, QuickBooks Desktop, because it was built for construction. It works really well at construction. And
yeah.
Intuit's trying to push everybody to QuickBooks Online. Everybody's fighting it, going, no, 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 it sucks. I do not want to use QuickBooks Online. I've been trying to change it for like 3 years. So far, they haven't been able to pull it because there's too much demand for QuickBooks Desktop because it's a better product for contractors. So you
Yeah.
might win that fight, as I see it, right?
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, both products are actually quite good. And if you look at the price point that they're offering it at, it's quite good too. I don't want to say anything negative about Intuit because frankly, like their product is good. And at the end of the day, our biggest competition is not the other construction focused software companies. It's QuickBooks and the fact that, hey, you can still kind of get things done in QuickBooks plus a spreadsheet plus maybe some manual effort. What we want to do is we want to prove to businesses that we work with that that manual effort, the spreadsheets, the time, the energy, the office staff that you have to hire is not worth it. And using construction focused software is just going to save you a whole lot of time and money. And so our
So
system
what does Beam do? Give me an example.
yeah. Yeah. So, for example, when you set up a project, you generally have an estimate, you have a budget, you have a schedule of values or a set of payment milestones that you're invoicing against. Or in the case of Cost Plus, you have a bunch of accounting codes and you have a bunch of markups associated with them. And throughout the project, you are completing work. And now in the case of progress invoicing, you need to present how much work you've completed. In the case of Cost Plus, you need to present all of your expenses and your bills and everything like that. And trying to do that in QuickBooks is quite difficult. And that's where most folks go in and they build spreadsheets. And then at some point they send those invoices manually. And then generally they just mark things as paid in QuickBooks. They're manually reconciling things in their accounting system. So what we wanted to do was first off solve that first problem of, hey, let's help you create the invoices. Let's help you track your subcontracts. Let's help you with all of the sort of record keeping and do that in a way that's very specific to construction. And then secondly, let's help you do the actual money movement. Let's help you collect payments. Let's help you pay your subcontractors directly through the system. And it turns out for construction, there's just a couple quirks there. For example, like a lot of businesses, they have to collect more than $50,000, but a lot of systems like QuickBooks Online are limited to $50,000 payments. And so we just knew from the start, hey, we needed to support payments, over $1 million. And so we built the system in such a way. We also understood that cash flow is extremely critical in construction. And so delays to payments, having to wait 5 days for a payment to process is unacceptable. We made things, as fast as possible, which for us is usually 1 to 2 business days. And what we also wanted to do is we know that when you're paying a subcontractor or when you're invoicing a client, because it's based off of progress and you're sending multiple invoices throughout the lifetime of a project, giving them the full context is really important. So we have a client portal that will show them all of their invoices that they've received, any change orders they've received, the payments that they made against them, how it stacks up against the budget or the original contract.
Does this integrate with their QuickBooks or integrate with their whatever their, like JobTread or Procore or whatever or not? Or
yeah, so we integrate with QuickBooks. And then if you're using, say, Procore and you have your Procore QuickBooks integration, it'll pull a lot of that data in. So today we don't integrate with say a JobTread or a Procore. Frankly, we are very, very focused on the financials. So we're not going to help you schedule jobs. We're not going to tell you how to do your, work log, your daily logs and all of the work that's happening on the field. And, frankly,
so my experience is that a lot of what do you call it? Like project management software, this Buildertrend, Procore, all those, they try to be everything to everybody. Like their CRM sort of sucks because they're not a CRM company. Their accounting sort of sucks, and they try to integrate it all. And now I think they're getting through a good AGI, a lot of add-ons. They're doing a much better job of that part than they do, which I think makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. As a general contractor, you wouldn't want to self-perform every single trade, on a large scale project. There's a reason why there's specialization and you hire trades. And it's the same thing for software. It's very, very hard for a single business and a single set of engineers and product designers and everyone to build software for everyone that spans 100 different modules. And so I think what we're seeing is the impact of essentially folks trying to self-perform and do everything well. We're not going to be able to do certain aspects of a construction project management very, very well. because our team doesn't reflect that. You know, our team has deep expertise in finances, accounting, payments. And we have folks who've worked in construction, and you know, we have general contractors who are on the team. But we're not going to be able to go and tell everyone how to run their jobs and build great tools
Most
for them.
people, to answer it, they just, link to QuickBooks Online and figure they're done. And that's like
Yeah.
the standard project management software's answer to this problem, right?
Yeah. But you know, we get customers left and right who have tried one of those systems. They try linking to their accounting software, but at the end of the day, they don't see the results. So, you know, the system's either too complicated and they can't figure out how to use it to pay their subs or to invoice their clients. You know, we focus fully on the financials and we want to do that exceptionally well. And then when you want a scheduling tool, you get the best in class scheduling tool. If you need a tool for taking photos and logging, find the best in class tool for that. You know, we try to partner with a bunch of different companies out there that are excellent at what they do. And
I think the concept of a tech stack is going to be new to construction, right?
yeah, well, at the end of the day, a construction company only wants to use 2 or 3 tools, like software tools. They don't want to have 12 different pieces of software running that they have to integrate together because frankly, we all know how hard it is to build a great integration. And so a lot of these tools actually don't integrate super well. And so I think the sweet spot is somewhere above 1 tool, but somewhere below 5 tools for a lot of these businesses. You know, you might want a tool that's best in class for sales and
So
marketing. You might
your
want a
voice
tool
keeps cutting out, sir. Let's keep going.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I've changed your microphone, whatever, but it keeps cutting out, so we're still good.
Sorry about that. Yeah, you might want a tool that's best in class for sales and marketing. You might want a tool that's best in class for your financials. And maybe you want a tool that's best in class for, you know, project management. And it's going to really help you, you know, manage your trades, put together your Gantt charts, scheduling, all of this stuff. And I think that's probably where the industry is headed more than 1 tool that tries to do everything. We just see that it's not successful both in commercial and in residential, and that folks are pushing back because they're not getting the value that they thought they would get from a single tool.
So tell me, what exactly just run through what your tool does, just so
Yeah.
people.
So our tool allows you to go all the way from estimate to invoice to payment to subcontractor billing to tracking all of your job profitability on one place. So what we noticed was 2 things. One is that as you use different manual processes for doing payments, invoicing, etc., you would end up losing track of your actual job costs. It would be too hard to know how much you were actually spending on a job and how much you were actually making on the job. The data would exist in 7 different places. And so great builders, even if they're an amazing builder, would not necessarily know, did I make money or did I lose money on a job? So what Beam does is it centralizes all that data, it centralizes all the workflows, and allows you to see how much have I spent on a job, how much am I making on the job, what's my profitability, and then it actually allows you to do all of the clerical tasks of collecting payments, paying subcontractors, managing receipts, and then syncing all of those back to your accounting system, where ideally your accounting system is something that your accountant only looks at once a year or once every quarter. It's not something that you're using to run the core business.
Right. You're not trying to get your P&L weekly, even though it might be good. Okay.
Yeah.
So how much does this cost?
Yeah, so Beam, I think, has one of the most generous free tiers in the entire industry. We really built it for small and mid-sized businesses that just want to, centralize all their financial operations in one place. And we offer quite a bit in this free tier. So you can send estimates and track them. You can create invoices from those estimates and do payment processing. You can add subcontractor bills and track your subcontract progress and pay those bills. You can track all of your estimates and you can capture receipts for those estimates. We actually issue you a charge card. We have an embedded banking product, so you can store funds on Beam and earn 2.5% APY. And you can do job costing through the platform. So you're going to see all of your expenses, all of your income on every single job, and know just exactly how profitable you are on each job.
So
That's all
that
included
sounds
in our free
amazing.
tier.
So if you paid for it, what does it cost, and what's the difference between the paid version and the free version?
Yeah, so the paid versions are really for businesses as they scale up and as they have more complex needs. So for example, in the $199 a month version, we allow you to track budgets. We allow you to have many more teammates on the platform and have things like bill approval workflows where you can say, hey, I want the project manager to approve each bill before we go and schedule payment, or I want the business owner to approve bills before we schedule payment. And then on the scale tier, we have a lot more functionality for sort of light commercial and scaled up residential contractors, like tracking insurance and licenses in the platform, paying with paper checks, things like that. And what we find is that a lot of folks start on the free tier, quickly discover that, wow, this tool is great. I'm using it every day, and I really like those additional features. And you can, upgrade at any point in time. You can downgrade at any point in time. There's no lock-in. We're truly incentivized to get you to use the system as much as possible, because we make money from you doing payments, from you storing funds in Beam, from you using our card. We're not making money from having a slick person on a sales call convincing you to sign up for a year.
It's interesting. I just asked my son, I use Vimeo, and I said, how does Vimeo make money? It's the same kind of thing, right? It's free everybody uses Vimeo to send money to their friends. They make money on all the other stuff, right? Same kind of model.
Yeah. And that's what we're finding, is really, contractors really love that because they want to be incentivized. They want to align incentives with the software company. So the fact that we are incentivized to make you a happy customer, to keep you on the product, to get you to use the product more, means that you're going to get a better service. Whereas if you sign up and you're locked in for a year, there's very little incentive for the software company to really make you a happy customer until maybe month 11 when they're trying to renew your software license. Maybe they try to come and appease you, but we just work differently.
Okay, cool. So Adam, if people want to get in touch with you and try this out, how should they do it?
Yeah, they should go to trybeam.com. On trybeam.com, they can access demos. They can read more about the product. They should also feel free to email us or call us. Our phone number and our email address is directly on the website. They can fill out their information, and we generally just ask folks to reach out to us before they sign up. We like to just get to know the business a little bit and give them a little bit of guidance on where they should start. But it truly takes about 15 minutes to set up your account so that you can start processing payments and link your QuickBooks and everything like that. On average, I would say our contractors, they send their first estimate or they send their first invoice in about 30, maybe 45 minutes of using the tool. And then we'll schedule another training with them or their team to make sure that they're successful.
Cool. That sounds great. Well, I imagine a lot of people listening to this podcast are having accounting issues and issues with QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online and how it's integrating with their project management software. Sounds like you have a good solution. So I definitely get hold of Adam and see what he can do for you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited to work with businesses building housing and infrastructure in America, and we have a ton of happy customers that they're just saving hours and hours every single week, which allows them to win more jobs. It allows them to track their profitability more closely. It reduces the need for additional office staff. And so if you feel like you're spending too much time on the books, you maybe aren't tracking things as carefully as you would like to be, you really don't know how much money you're making or losing on a particular job, or you just feel like you have you don't want to have to hire another office admin and deal with that overhead, you should definitely talk to us. We work well for any type of residential contractor, trade contractors, and light commercial contractors.
Great. Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.